For this project, you may use any type of paint. You could use acrylic, tempera, watercolor. You'll need a big piece of white paper and some water and a few paintbrushes. You could also use markers, paint sticks, watercolors, colored pencils. Any type of color will work. We learned that Alma Thomas made many of her paintings by looking out the window of her house. For this project, you can look out your window and try to paint what you see outside. Of course, you can always paint from your imagination as well. Alma Thomas loved to paint about space and about the stars and the sky, and so this could be either from imagination or from something you can see outside your window. I'm going to start by painting this tree right in the center. It's actually a plum tree, and its leaves are all of these beautiful shades of purple. And then I'm going to paint the plants surrounding that tree. See, I have a big piece of paper, and I'm just starting to paint in some of the kind of branches and leaves of that purple plum tree in my front yard. And this is abstract, so it does not need to look exactly like the tree looks in real life. I'm just sort of painting my impression of the tree, which is that when the light shines on the tree, I see all different shades of purple in its leaves. So I'm going to just keep going, and then once I'm done with the plum tree, I'm going to add some of the other colors that I see. I have a green plant with pink flowers. I'm going to add that in as well, so I'll check back. So, what are you working on?
I'm just trying to draw Jupiter, and then I'm going to paint over it.
So your first layer is Jupiter. And then we'll stay tuned for the second layer. Okay, great. This is perfect that you're covering the paper from edge to edge. We want to cover the entire piece of paper in paint. Okay, so I have most of my tree and my plants in place, and now I'm just going back and painting green. Kind of wherever I have white paper that hasn't been painted, I'm going back and filling that in with different shades of green, and I'm even just putting a little bit of water on my paintbrush so it's a little bit more watery. Because one thing I noticed when I look at the tree, I don't see any white. So this is the end of step one. I've filled my entire piece of paper with all of the colors and kind of the impressions that I saw out my window. And then you can see Leo's painting. He painted from his imagination, and he was thinking about Jupiter. So he included a lot of the colors and some of the patterns of Jupiter. Now we need to let these dry for a few hours, and we'll be ready for step two. So I let my first layer dry, as you can see here in the background. I painted this in the morning, and now I'm back in the afternoon to do the second layer. So as we saw with Alma Thomas's paintings, she would cover the surface of her painting in these brush strokes that she called paint dabs. And dabs for her were sometimes kind of like a rectangle shape, maybe with a larger brush than what I'm using. And then they could also be sort of almost like a fingerprint shape, so a little bit more rounded. And in some of her paintings, if you take a close look, she paints them in rows, almost like bricks in a wall. And then in other paintings, like the one that we saw of the falling leaves in autumn, she paints them in sort of all different directions, so it almost looks more like falling leaves or rain. So those are two options that you could think about. You could also think about having your dabs go in kind of a radial pattern, going around in a circle, as we saw in some of her more radial designs. So for this one, my idea is for it to sort of look like it's raining over the garden. So I'm gonna go with this sort of falling, more random design. So here's some of the progress on mine. You can see that I actually started over here with this sort of more like raindrops falling in different directions. And then the more I thought about it, the more I wanted to try just the stripes, because the stripes are right here, because I wanted to fill more of the canvas and just have little tiny pieces kind of showing through. And I think that's okay. Alma Thomas would also change up the color of the paint dabs she was using and sometimes the direction. So it's okay to try a variety of these techniques all at once. that Leo's first layer has dried. He painted sort of the surface of Jupiter in colors and textures. And now he's going over, in his second layer, he's going over the surface